How's it going, YouTube? Clint with Prestige Aquatics back with another video. Today we're going to be talking about the automatic water change system we have set up here in the fish room. You're not going to want to miss a thing. Stay tuned. So when I set this fish room up about 18 months ago, I knew that I wanted a water change system like this, but I did things in the wrong order, guys. And I want to strongly urge you to do things in the right order. What I mean by that is, you need to drill your tanks and set them up on the water change system, or run overflows, whatever you want to do, on the water change system before you set up the tanks. It's going to make your life a million times easier in the end, and I'll tell you why. When I first started the fish room, I set up this stand first, and I had mostly 20 longs on the stand. And so I put the tanks on, I filled them up with substrate, and I put fish in them, put plants in them, and ran them for a long time. And when you run a tank for a long time, it really ages nicely and matures, and all that beneficial bacteria and everything is rolling in your tank. And you don't want to disturb that unless you absolutely have to. When you set up your tanks before you set up your automatic water change system, you basically got two options. Neither of these is a good option, but I'll give them both to you anyway. And I had to use both to achieve my goal of having the automatic water change system. You can either drill your tanks while it's still got water in it, or you can break your tank down, remove all the fish, remove all the plants, remove all the substrate and hardscape, drill the tank, and set it back up. So I'm on the back side of my 40s rack right now, and I decided to drill these tanks while they still had water in them. I did this on these tanks because the amount of fish they had in them and the substrate and the plants was just far too great for me to be pulling them all out and finding temporary homes for them while I drilled the tanks and I installed the bulkheads. I'll go into detail on how I did this in a later video, but for right now, just know that you don't want to be doing this. What you want to be doing is drilling your aquariums as soon as you buy them. I know that we all want to set up these aquariums as fast as we can and get fish in them as fast as we can and get the instant cycle going, but guys, with a little time and a little patience, you can really make something special. I'm not going to go into exactly how you drill your aquariums and you install these bulkheads and glue them together. For this video, I just want you to get a bigger picture idea of what a water change system looks like. All the aquariums have bulkheads, and they have a hose barb fitting, and then the hose goes down to a 2-inch drain, and that drain flows all the way down to the end and comes down and goes straight out the wall. Okay, so we've covered the drains. How do we get the water to our aquariums? There are a few ways to get water to your aquariums, but this is how I did it. I installed a manifold that you see here, and I've got one side that's manual and one side that's automatic. Now, I don't have the automatic set up. All I have to do to run a water change right now is turn one of these valves and water will start flowing. So if we want to run a water change on any certain zone, we can just open the valve that goes to that zone. So I'll open this valve and water has started flowing. Come over to this rack, we can see that water has started flowing in the aquariums. The water is flowing out of these valves connected to airline tubing. They just have a little barb fitting on the end of the valve. You just drill a hole in these fill lines. I got these valves at Jimco. If you call them and tell them you're doing a water change system, they'll recommend a valve like this. Let's pause for a second to see how fired up these guppies are for their water change. Look in the back of this aquarium, we can see that water is flowing out of the overflow as expected. The other most important part of this process is treating the water. Here's how I do it. So for my water change system, I'm utilizing a couple different pieces of equipment here on the front end of the water change system. I need to remove the chlorine from the water before it goes into the tanks. And how I do that is using a big carbon block filter like this one. Now, my local water source does not have chloramines in it, but you should check with your local water source provider to make sure that you don't have chloramines before installing something like this. They make products that will treat for chloramines, but this one specifically does not. Now, from this carbon block filter, I have a water softener hooked up, and I've actually got that bypassed right now because most of the fish I have in my fish room like hard water. But if I want to run a soft water change, I just have to flip these valves. Now water flows from there and it goes into my hot water heater that's tankless right here. I would highly recommend, if you're doing a lot of tanks or doing an automatic water change system, to go with a tankless water heater. You might have to run some more electric, but it's going to be worth it in the long run for the amount of volume of hot water that you can produce. From there, I go to a shower mixing valve. Now this is just any shower valve like you have in your house, and that's just controlling and stabilizing the temperature. I've got it set at about 76 degrees so that the water cools a little bit when it enters the tank. Now the last important part of this system is this pressure regulator. This pressure regulator reduces the water pressure to 15 psi and ensures that the water pressure does not blow out the taps that are filling the aquariums. From there, I go to my manifold and then to the tanks. There you have it, guys. That's how I set up my automatic water change system. In the future, I'll be going in depth and specific about how I built each component of the system. But for now, I just wanted to show you an overview, and I wanted to encourage you to perform a project like this. It might seem daunting and it might be intimidating, but it is so worth it, guys. I promise once you get done, you will not regret it. Until next time, Prestige Aquatics signing out.